It's always great to have Clay Harbor on Good Morning NFC East with me. You can check Clay Harbor on the Believe Podcast Network. Clay, where else can we find your content, by the way?
Yeah, I love Twitter. I'm a big Twitter guy. I post a lot of my thoughts and feelings there about the NFL. So just Clay Harbs 82 on Twitter. I also have a Chicago Bears podcast called the Bare Minimum Podcast. And obviously that happens to be the Eagles' opponent this week, as well as CBS Sports. If you watch the Bears post-game show in Chicago against AFC teams, I will be on that post-game show. So those are all the places you can find me.
Yeah, Clay, you're everywhere these days, man. And this is one of the reasons why I love following you, especially on a week like this week. I feel like I'm getting all my Bears knowledge from you, not just this week, but
Yeah.
but the whole season. And I know Jalen Hurts wanted us to ask about the Bears defense yesterday, but I'm giving the floor to you. I know this past defense isn't that great.
This defense is the worst defense in the league. I know in terms of scoring, they're number 4. They're the 4th worst, but Pro Football Focus has them graded as the worst defense by far. This is one of the worst defensive lines historically I've ever seen in my life. They are only averaging pressures on 20% of dropbacks. That's by far the worst in the league. As soon as they let go of Robert Quinn, who didn't do much, obviously, traded him to the Eagles for a 4th-round pick, the other guys can't get pressure. It's like they've been allergic to the quarterback. Dominique Robinson, Al-Quadin Muhammad, Travis Gibson are guys that haven't gotten a sack in 5 weeks. So these are supposed to be your big-time defensive ends, edge rushers, and they can't do anything since Robert Quinn left. And Robert Quinn obviously didn't have great numbers this year, but you started noticing that he was getting some double teams, which was allowing some of these other guys to get pressures. They have the least amount of sacks in the entire NFL at 15 sacks. I think you'll have a bird or two maybe have 15 sacks by itself at the end of the season. So this defense is struggling, and the last couple of weeks they've had some injuries. Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker will be back this week. They've been out the last 2 weeks with concussions. They'll be back, but Kyler Gordon, he's the 2nd-round pick for the Bears this year, which was their highest draft pick because they traded their former 1st-round draft pick for Justin Fields when they got him. Kyler Gordon can't cover anybody. He's pretty good in the run. He's a good force player in the run, but he can't cover anyone. If I went back out there today, I feel like I could get open on this guy. We got Jaquan Brisker coming back, who's a good player. He's actually the real deal. The Penn State alum can get the job done, but pass coverage is coming along slowly. He's really good against the run. Linebacking crew, they traded Roquan Smith. So now you're sitting with an undrafted rookie free agent, Jack Sanborn, at middle linebacker, which he's actually done a pretty nice job for the Bears, but he's still an undrafted rookie free agent going against a high-powered Eagles offense. I don't like his chances there. Nick Morrow is the other linebacker who's having a decent year. But overall, the defense is in trouble. Eddie Jackson, their stud safety, is out for the season. The cornerbacks, I don't think will be able to cover Devontae and obviously A.J. Brown. So this defense, in my opinion, is horrendous. They're averaging they're giving up 4.7 yards per rush as well. So you can pick your poison. Do you want to run the ball? Do you want to throw the ball? And obviously they're not going to get any pressure, especially against the best offensive line in the National Football League, the Philadelphia Eagles.
I guess it's one of the side topics we've had on Justin Fields this year, at least in CBS, it's his struggles in the 4th quarter. And I've been defending him and saying, well, it's not like his defense is stopping anybody.
Yeah, so out of context, you would think that Fields is having struggles in the 4th quarter. But if you watch the games like I have, you realize a lot of this is his teammates, which is unfortunate. I don't like to put blame on people, but Equanimeous St. Brown against the Dolphins, last-minute drive, driving down the field, the ball goes right through his hands. Last-minute drive against the Vikings, Amir Smith-Marset fumbles the ball, recovered by the Vikings. The last week against the Packers, driving down the field. 2 weeks ago, the Bears are coming off of a bye week. 2 weeks ago against the Packers, Equanimeous St. Brown just gets undercut on a simple 15-yard hook route, which he should have never get undercut on, and the ball gets picked off. People do see that and say that the guy can't win the game, but he doesn't have much help. And I think that's what the Bears are going to have to do this offseason is get some pieces around him like the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts last year that really changed, the outlook of his career and his passing. And people should realize that Justin Fields against the Packers before the bye week was Pro Football Focus's that week top graded passer, not rusher, passer, strictly passing. The last game he played in, he was the best graded passer in the entire NFL.
One of the things I've liked about Justin Fields over the last couple of weeks is he has been throwing the ball better. And you're right, he doesn't have much to work with. Like Chase Claypool's been a disappointment. Equanimeous St. Brown, he is what he is, right? You can't criticize the guy too much. Darnell Mooney's been out, but why is this Claypool trade? I wasn't crazy about the trade to begin with, like what they gave up for him, but why has Claypool been such a disappointment for this team so far?
I don't think I'd necessarily call him a disappointment. He just hasn't got many opportunities. Yeah. I know obviously he hasn't got many yards. I think he's got like 200 yards right now after, 5 games of being there with the team. But he struggled to learn the offense. He hasn't got many opportunities now that Mooney's out. He hasn't got many reps. The first few weeks, the first week I think he got like 10 reps. The second week he got like 15, 16 reps. So he hasn't honestly gotten that many reps for people to be disappointed in him. And the Bears, at that point, I don't think they were planning on being as bad as they are to where now they have the 33rd, 34th overall pick in the draft. That's what they traded for Claypool. I mean, so that's dang near a first-round pick. You're giving up the 34th pick. But Claypool has shown some flashes. He's a big guy. He can run, but he just hasn't had the reps and hasn't had the opportunity to really get the ball. And there's been some tough plays, some pass interference here and there that they don't show up on the stat book. But overall, I think that the jury is still very much out on Chase Claypool.
What does the Eagles defense have to do to stop Justin Fields? Because the Bears do have the number 1 run offense in football.
To stop Justin Fields, it's difficult to stop him now because he's, he can throw and he can run. He's a Jalen Hurts type guy. They're going to have to maybe spy him with an athletic guy. I don't think T.J. Edwards is a guy. Maybe Kaiser White can spy Fields, send some pressure with maybe some defensive backs, guys that are quick enough to bring him down. But the problem is with Fields is people don't realize this. This guy's 6'3", 225, 230 pounds. I've stood next to this guy on several occasions. This guy's big as I am. Looks like a tight end. This guy's big, he's strong, and he can run. And he's got one of those extra gears. Since 2018, according to Next Gen Stats, he's already has the most 20-mile-per-hour plus carries since then. So, I mean, that just shows you how fast this guy is. 20-mile-per-hour carry after 20-mile-per-hour carry. He can get up to top speed fast, and he can keep it. So what they need to do is run a zone defense. Keep your eyes front. If you run man-to-man, you turn your back on a guy like Fields, he's going to scramble. Third down, don't send your usual man-to-man blitz. You got to keep your eyes forward because Fields will scramble if you give him an inch.
My thing with Justin Fields is I really like what he's done this year, but I'm curious to see his ceiling because I think it's very, very high. I love the kid's potential. Where do you see his ceiling as an NFL quarterback?
I think it's something we've never seen before because you see the success he's having with one of the worst offensive units in the league. I mean, if you take any quarterback and put him in this offense with this line, with these weapons, I mean, he's basically throwing to us too, Jeff. I mean, the guy's he doesn't have many weapons out there. It's pretty sad for him. Running game, Khalil Herbert was doing well, and Khalil Herbert's out. He's got David Montgomery's okay, short yardage back, but that's why his ceiling's so high because he doesn't have help and he's still putting up these crazy numbers. I feel like he's a Lamar Jackson type quarterback, but he throws better than Lamar Jackson. He has a better deep ball than Lamar Jackson, at least more talent to get to a higher ceiling than a guy like Lamar Jackson. So I think his ceiling is extremely high, and he's shown us what he can do. He's since week 7, the last 7 games, the Bears have averaged 25 points a game. The first 6, they averaged 15. So that's the difference in the season. About halfway through the season, 6 games in, the Bears switched their offense from a normal, typical offense to this new Baltimore Ravens type offense. And since then, 7 games, they've averaged 25 points a game, put them top 5, top 6, top 7 in the NFL.
I was going to ask you, like, what Luke Getsy changed there, and you kind of answered the question for me, but why do you think Getsy went to that switch so I guess so smoothly, if you will?
It was a pseudo bye week, and they really had to look and see, why are we he's coming from Green Bay. Why are you using Justin Fields like he's Aaron Rodgers? Okay. You don't drop this guy back and give him a 3-step, a 5-step, 7-step drops and just tell him to stay in the pocket. That's not what he is good at doing. And the offense struggled. He got sacked. People thought the offensive line was the worst line. Fields took longer getting rid of the ball than any quarterback in the league, according to Next Gen Stats. So you got all these problems. They go in the bye week. They're barely averaging 15 points a game. You switch up the offense, and they come out and they explode. He started taking some things from the Baltimore Ravens. Now you got Fields on some runs. You got him on some called runs. You're getting him the pocket moving here and there. You're limiting his full field reads to half the field. And he's really shown that he can handle that type of play a lot better than the full field read play in the prototypical 3, 5, 7-step drop. Now you're getting him on the move. You have a called run. Now you're doing a play action off this quarterback called run. And it really gave defenses something to see, something to worry about that they're not used to seeing. And that's why it's so successful.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's every day on Twitter, but there's a lot of days you talk about the Bears offensive line. And I looked into it because of you. And I was like, you know what? This unit, it's better than average, in my opinion, especially when you got guys like Tevin Jenkins on that line.
Yeah, Tevin Jenkins, in my opinion, should be a Pro Bowl player. I mean, watching the tape of this guy, I mean, it's incredible to see what he does, the effort he puts in, the amount of guys he pancakes. I mean, in college, you see a guy get pancaked, and I used to love pancaking guys at Missouri State and FCS school. This guy's doing it in the NFL. I mean, it's crazy. Like, he's such a good player. Cody Whitehair, solid. Braxton Jones, the left tackle, he's got a big job this week, but he's improved greatly. Hassan Reddick's going to be coming in there, so it'll be a good matchup for him. But this line, you look at the ESPN, the Pro Football Focus, my personal viewpoint, the line's not that bad. And everybody in Chicago wants to just point the finger, the offensive line. You need to look around the league. Offensive lines aren't perfect. You got to give a guy 3-4 seconds to throw the ball, and it's on the quarterback. A lot of these guys think that this offensive line is supposed to be this impenetrable group. The Philadelphia Eagles have that group. They have that group with their line. Their line's incredible. That's one of the best lines I've seen. I mean, Jalen Hurts really does have all day to throw the ball, and that's good. That's what you want. But that not every team's going to have that. And the Bears, if you watch other games, you will see their offensive line is better than most.
You played with Jason Kelce. I know this was a decade ago, but what is it about him, like his presence, that like you knew he was going to be like this leader, this excellent player from day one?
Yeah, it's crazy to think about Kelce and BG are still playing and still getting it done. And obviously BG just came off of a 3-sack game. Kelce's the number 1 center in the NFL still right now. I'm struggling to get out of bed with my back injuries and whatever. And Kelce's still getting it done, taking on middle linebackers. The guys, I mean, they just work diligently, man. They love the game. They study the game. And they're just guys that were all football all the time. And you'd love to see the success they had. And the city of Philly loves them for it. And you kind of knew Kelce was going to be that guy, because he was back in the day, it was just like, wow, when you first saw him get drafted, you're like, this kid's athletic. Like, he can run for a center. He's like a linebacker playing center, and he's really molded into that position. He's an athletic as a linebacker. He's like a middle linebacker playing center, and that's why he's so good.
Did you expect BG to be this good?
I knew BG could play. He was the first-round draft pick in my draft class back in 2010, and I mean, he's just got a low center of gravity. He's a big, strong guy, low center of gravity, and he's just a diligent worker, quiet worker. People don't really talk about his work ethic, but the guy gets it done, and he's just a joy to be around. The guy's one of the funnest guys. I mean, he's always laughing. He's always smiling. just puts in his work, and you love to see it. And talking to him this offseason, one of the big things he said that's really helped him the last couple of years was his diet. And he's got a nutritionist, and he takes, a lot of pride in having a good diet and making sure that he's healthy and fueled to play the right type of football. And after last week, I don't think anybody's to say that it's not working for him, because it is.
Oh, it clearly is. And another person too I think you played with was Fletcher Cox, right? Were you guys there in 2012?
Yeah, Fletch was our first round draft pick in 2012, and Fletcher is still getting it done, man. These guys are, it's crazy thing. These guys are all still in that same locker room, still getting it done, and they've got their ring. And I think personally they're going to go for another. These guys are Philly legends, and obviously I think they're all going to be Philadelphia Eagle Hall of Famers.
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to remember what game it was. Oh, Titans game. So talking to Miles Sanders, and BG, he's having fun pointing at media members, going, "Oh, you only picked us to win by 8. You only picked us to win by 10. I'm just laughing during the interview. And Miles goes, "Man, this guy's having so much fun. He just wants that second ring." I wanted to mention this to you, Clay. Do you think they ultimately get it? Like, do you think this team is good enough to just take the whole thing this year?
I think they are. And I'm not just saying that. I think the Eagles, they have to be the favorite. You look at this NFC. This NFC doesn't have many other good teams. Okay, with the Buccaneers now, Tom Brady's finally looking his age. The Vikings just lost to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are playing really well, but they're probably not even going to make the playoffs. But then you got the Packers aren't going to make the playoffs, and the biggest threat would probably be a team like the Seahawks, and they're still struggling to make the playoffs. And the 49ers lost their starting quarterback. Brock Purdy, I don't take him over Jalen Hurts. So I think the road to the Super Bowl couldn't be better for the Eagles. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but it's probably the easiest road they could possibly have thought of coming into this year. I think it's their game in the NFC. It depends who they play against. Who would they go against? The Chiefs, obviously. Andy Reid versus the Eagles would be a heck of a story. And Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts are 2 MVP candidates. I'd love to see that. And then you got Buffalo over there. Maybe Joe Burrow's coming on late. There's some good players, but obviously the one team that does still worry me in the NFC would be Dallas. And I just don't like Dallas. I keep waiting for them to lose. I know they barely pulled one out against the Texans last week, last seconds. Dak Prescott touchdown. Or no, Ezekiel Elliott touchdown, sorry. But I like the Eagles' odds here this year. They have a full team. They have a great offense, great defense. Howie Roseman did a heck of a job putting this team together.
When you played, I know Twitter wasn't as big as it is now, but it was still big in 2010, 2011, 2012. Did you ever hear that chatter from like an opposing team's fan base? Like, "Oh, you only beat us because, like this year. Oh, well, Dak Prescott did start. Cooper Rush started. Did you ever hear that? Did that kind of motivate you?
I didn't really pay much attention to Twitter back in the day. It wasn't as big, like you said. Now it's like it's become a whole thing. You just can type in anything and people tweeting at you, and there's so many more users now. But I think that can play a role and motivate some guys. But I think this Eagles team is an internally motivated team. They don't need that outside noise, and they know who they are. And honestly, Cooper Rush isn't that much worse than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's got 9 picks. He's thrown so many picks these past few games. So honestly, they might have been better off with Cooper Rush. But I think that's going to be an interesting game for sure, especially after Micah Parsons and his Jalen Hurts comments.
Yeah. What did you think of them?
I didn't know why he went there and said that. Apparently he's just speaking his mind. Doesn't think Jalen Hurts is the MVP. He thinks it's the Eagle system. There's an argument to be made that, okay, this guy's got a great offensive line. He's got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. But you look, when Dallas Goedert go out, he's throwing to Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra. He's not losing production. Hurts is still to lose one of the best players at their position in the league and to not have your production dip and to not lose games because of that. That shows what kind of a player Jalen Hurts is. And they're still beating the brakes off of teams after you're losing a huge piece of your offense. That middle of the field, defenses had to account for Goddard. In my opinion, he's going to be the best Philadelphia Eagle tight end in history. He's that good. He's a guy that can change the game. He goes out. Now you got Jack Stoll and Grant Calstar who are doing a great job in their little roles, but they're not Dallas Goedert. They're never going to be Dallas Goedert. And to lose him and to keep doing what he's doing has just been extremely impressive for me. You take the best player to position from a lot of quarterbacks in the league, they're not going to be able to play at the same level. Jalen Hurts did.
One of the things, again, with the whole Parsons comments, like I wanted to see how it resonated to you being a former player. Like you hear those comments and you're not even playing that team that week. You know they're coming up on the schedule. In the locker room, did you guys used to like say Micah Parsons would do something like that? Would you guys talk about that in the locker room saying, hey, or is it just, okay, we'll worry about that when it actually comes to it?
People will say something about it, but I doubt they'll bring it up to Jalen Hurts. Nobody's going to come up to Jalen like, oh man, do you hear what Micah said? But guys will be like, yo, did you see that, that thing on TV, what Micah Parsons was saying with Von Miller? And they'll talk about it, but they're going to focus on this week. And next week it'll be brought up. But listen, this guy's disrespecting your quarterback. You guys going to let him do that? Okay, let's see what happens. And they're going to show it. They're going to talk about it. They're going to have it in the locker room next week. I don't know if they have the so-called bulletin board material, but it'll be something they talk about.
Yeah. And like, do you know, like the media is going to ask you questions like obviously, like say you were in that locker room, you're going to be available to talk. Like, are you fully bracing like those questions?
Yeah, you got to be prepared for them. But if you're a guy like Jalen Hurts and then obviously the rest of the team, you're prepared for it. But I think right now they're focused. They're a focused team. I mean, what says it all to me is last week you probably saw it. I saw it. These guys are sitting on the bench. I think it's Quez Watkins and A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. And you see Quez Watkins and A.J. Brown laughing, joking around. They're beating the brakes off the Giants. They're having a good time laughing. Then they pan to Jalen Hurts. He is all business now. He's not having fun. He knows the job ain't finished. It's like Kobe Bryant. Kobe, you won this game. Why are you not smiling and happy? Job's not done. Did we get the ring? Job's not done. That's a mentality that Jalen Hurts is bringing, and this guy's all business, and that's exactly what I want my leader to do. That's a type of behavior I want my quarterback to have.
Yeah. See, I'm glad I compared Jalen Hurts to Kobe Bryant earlier in the show because that is what he reminds you of, right? He's that guy.
You did that too, huh?
Yeah. I asked Tone, but before you came on, I'm like, what athlete, any athlete, you pick anyone, what Jalen Hurts reminds you of? And I'm like, and he's like thinking, I'm like, Kobe. It's that mindset. He's that guy. He's always in the gym, or he's always on, in the film room. He's working like I said, when you and I are sitting back watching TV, watching film, whatever we're doing. Jalen Hurts is still at the NovaCare complex. He's just like that guy. He's trying to find ways where he can get that extra hour or two to beat you.
Yeah, and that's what it takes to be a great player, and that's why he was able to make one of the biggest transformations that I've ever seen in the NFL. Obviously, the guy had talent last year, but you remember Philly media, I remember going to camp and thinking, wow, this guy's looking great. And you got some of these guys, these talking about, oh, Hurts is not looking good. He's only this. I'm like, dude, this guy's looking incredible.
That's what I said in camp. I'm like, oh my God, like he's looking really good. Well, it's just practice. I'm like, are you guys sure it's just practice? Because
if a guy like him is doing that in practice, you're still taking away one of his major things. You're not running the football in practice. He runs a zone read as good as any quarterback I've ever seen. The way he can run the zone read, he runs a zone read better than Justin Fields. He's not as explosive, but he runs a zone read better than he does. I mean, this guy is the real deal when it comes to that. And the way he just transformed himself this year, you can see what kind of worker he is. He doesn't care about the outside stuff. He's all football.
Yeah. So in training camp, right, Clay, you and I might have been at the same practice on this day. It was like early August.
Yeah.
Jalen's throwing just deep post patterns, right? And he throws one to Devonta Smith, and it was literally on the money. And keep in mind, James Bradbury was covering Devonta Smith when it happened. I'm like, okay, if he's doing this against James Bradbury, what's he going to do against a regular number 2 NFL cornerback who's on Devonta Smith? And I think we're seeing that this year. It's like Jalen Hurts, I just feel like since the start of training camp, he's just been on this roll you just can't contain. It's almost like a Nick Foles in 2013 type run. Like, no matter what he did, you weren't stopping him.
No, and watching Jalen Hurts, you can just see that he's just playing with confidence. And when a guy like him is playing with that kind of confidence, it's hard to stop him. He's got weapons. He's got some of the best weapons in the league, and he's got some of the best offensive linemen in the league. Like you're talking Kelsey, Lane Johnson, like these guys are legit. And then to pair that with one of the best defenses in the league, that's why it's hard for me to say the Eagles aren't going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, anything can happen any given Sunday. Anybody can win. But when you put together offense, defense, O-line, D-line, it's hard to stop that.
Pick a weakness in this Eagles team if you had to.
I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson going out. I mean, that's tough. Him being injured. I mean, besides that, I don't really see much of a weakness. I mean, their corners, Slay and Bradbury, best combination in the league, in my opinion, by far, no question. That defensive line with Hassan Reddick, BG, Fletch. I mean, those guys have just kept getting it done. I love this defensive line. Josh Sweat also. O-line, obviously the best offensive line in the league. Running game, I think Miles Sanders is great. He's underrated. The guy doesn't get talked about enough. The guy is explosive. He can make plays. He can break tackles. Quarterback, Jalen Hurts MVP, baby. Tight end, when Goedert gets back, top 5 tight end in the league. Wide receiver, top 5 wide receiver group in the league with Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and A.J. Brown. Safety, okay, I think maybe you can make an argument with C.J. Gardner-Johnson out that's a position of need. So besides that, I think this team is pretty much set.
So obviously you think Jalen Hurts is MVP. Can you give me your top 5 right now?
For my MVP?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's we got Jalen Hurts is 1. Number 2 is Pat Mahomes, obviously. Number 3, I'll go with, I know he hasn't had a great year, but Josh Allen still had a solid year. Number 4, Jamar Chase. The guy's just been incredible. The way he can just catch the football has been great, and it's crazy to see a wide receiver with 1,500 yards already. He might break Calvin Johnson's record. And then number 5, go with a dark horse guy you haven't heard much from, but he's come on of late. And, I really like this guy, and that's Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, Burrow's having, it's weird. He's having a quietly good year. I think everybody keeps looking at this Bengals team as the team that started 0-2. And I don't think they realize, they've been 9-2 in their last 11 with wins over Kansas City. And they do play Buffalo in a couple of weeks. It feels like that's going to be the determining factor of, where Cincinnati falls in this playoff race. Yeah,
absolutely. But you see that they've picked it up of late, and they've really done a good job of changing around. They started 0-2. Everybody was counting them out. I remember I was like, wow, what happened to this team? This team was in the Super Bowl last year. But now they're looking like the team that will get back to the Super Bowl. I think they have a good opportunity. They'll be in the hunt there with Kansas City and Buffalo, just like they were last year. So it's going to be interesting.
What team do you think comes out of the AFC? I know you said you want to see Hurts and Mahomes, but what team do you think ultimately gets out of there?
I'm gonna pick the Chiefs. I love Coach Reid. Obviously, the coach that drafted me, and Pat Mahomes is a player, and they got a good old line. They got weapons that have stepped up. Valdez, Scantling. I mean, some of these guys, Hardman, you've never heard of until this year, and I mean, Juju's playing well. Can't count out the second Kelsey brother. I think some would argue that he's the first Kelsey brother, but Travis Kelsey is doing an amazing job as always. I think he's the best tight end in the history of the game. So I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs.
All these years of Andy Reid, right? You played for him. He's still coaching. Are you surprised Andy Reid is an even better coach now than you could say he was with the Eagles?
No, he loves his players, man, and he's a guy that puts the players first, and that's what you want in a coach. And you could just tell he's a guy that always genuinely loved the game, and he always was learning. He always wanted to know more. And he just did a great job with the players. Every one of his players will tell you that they love Coach Reid. They love the way he calls his offense. They love the way he does his job. He's a guy that you just pull for. You want to win for him. And he loves the game. And that's his life. And he's a guy that has changed a lot of guys' lives and careers just with the things he's been able to do for them and with them. And it's great to see the success he's had. And I'm not surprised. He's just a great offensive mind. And you love to see Coach Reid doing well.
Yeah. Clay, once again, my man, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate all the Bears talk, and I'm gonna have to get you on again some point later in the year. Maybe we'll have to solidify the MVP campaign if Jalen Hurts hasn't locked it up already.
Absolutely. You let me know when, Jeff. I'm in. I always love talking birds.
All right, Clay. Once again, I appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Later.
All right. So